Bye, everybody.
Hello and welcome everybody. We are back for lesson number 2 of Mike Archer's sales training where you can get certified. How you doing, Mike?
Them and make them lifelong clients and lifelong professional friends. So, like I said, this is the first week of 3 weeks that is actually walking you through how you establish the relationship in order to move forward with the sales. And today is lesson 2. It's called behavioral styles. And I want you to look at that very first paragraph, and I want you to circle it, underline it. This is the key. This is what sets up what we're going to be talking about today. Each of us has a unique and a distinct personality that sets us apart from all other people. There's only one you. There's only one me. There's only one Amanda. So, and what this is what's called our style. This is our own particular unique style to us. And it's composed of our minds, our intellects, our abilities, and our wills. That comes from our nature. That comes from the genetic sequences that our parents gave us. Our surroundings, our nurture, how we were raised, that forms our morals, our values, our ideas, our ideals, and our attitudes. That's our nurture. You all heard the way we were, who we are, is comprised of our nature and our nurture. Well, this is it right here. All of this together makes up our personality, and it's manifested through our behaviors, how we present ourselves to the world. So how we interpret how somebody else likes to be treated it's not a complicated process, but it's kind of an involved one. And so I want you to go to the top of column 2, and I've got 6 bullet points there that you really, really need to pay attention to, because this is the basis under which we are going to observe other people's behavior. All right. First and foremost, style is based upon behaviors. I want you to underline this. We can observe using verbal and nonverbal clues, and encompasses only 2 things: what people say and what people do. And that's it. It's verbal and nonverbal, but this particular question is on the test, and it's not verbal and nonverbal clues. It's what they say and what they do. All right. It's the actual language, not the way that they say it. It's how they present themselves. All right. Number 2, and this is key. When you're doing this, you are simply making observations. Style is non-judgmental. There is no good, there is no bad, there just is. And your style is perfect for you, and it's not subject to change. That's number 4. The other thing that styles is not is putting people in boxes, and I'll walk you through that one in a minute. Just because you see somebody as a certain way, that doesn't mean they are always going to be that way. Situation and circumstances dictate. Sometimes our behavioral styles change, and we're going to get into that more. We're going to get into that next week. All right, that's called backup behavior, what we do under tension, what we do under stress. Each style has its strengths, which are the seeds of its weakness. And we'll get into that a little bit as we go along and I start talking to you about what each style, what the things, the characteristics are of each style. And we all have, like, style isn't putting people in boxes. We all have characteristics from each of the other four styles. There's just one style we call home base, where we are the most comfortable, but we all have characteristics from each of the other styles. And this, wonderful people, this is a life skill. This isn't just a selling skill. When you're finished with this today, I'm going to give you some homework that you're going to have some fun with. All right. Underneath that second sub headline on the right column, again, I want you to underline this. Styles is first and foremost objective. It's what you can observe about people. And it's not subject to your own internal interpretation. It's what you can see about them that's true. And it's called style clues. And we're going to talk about that. Your goal, especially in selling, your goal is not to discover whether or not you like this person and this person likes you. Your goal is to find out the clues that they give you so that you can more effectively communicate with them. And that's the key. All right. That's it. And this goes along, those of you that follow along with Jose's training, this is part of Jose's meet and greet and getting to know the client phase of his training. Okay. So what I want you to do is this is the blank behavioral profile, which you can find on page 6. Okay. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is these 4 columns, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with them. The first columns 1 and 2, these two have to do with your emotions, and columns 3 and 4 have to do with your assertiveness or your aggressiveness. What you're going to do is I'm going to show you how you'd use this, and this will establish your home base where you like to be. Now, what you see up here is this is my particular behavioral profile that I did, like, I don't know, 40 years ago. At the top, imagine you're in the kitchen at a party listening to 5 of your clients, business acquaintances, family members, friends, and so you're in the kitchen, they're in the dining room, and there's a wall between you, and they're talking about you, and they don't know that you're listening. And they are using these words to describe you. All right. Please pick the words and phrases you think they would use to describe you most of the time, more than the time. So if my friends were people and business acquaintances were talking about me, and you'll notice these are opposites. Am I cool or am I warm? Am I reserved or am I approachable? These go together. I'm either one or the other. All right. And you need to answer. And there is, well, I've modified this a little bit. There are 15 of these. So they would see me as warm, but they would also see me as reserved. They would see me as a communicative person, but I'm also very guarded. So you're going to go through here, and I'm going to give you some time to do this. And you're gonna go through each one of these and make sure that you have checked one or the other of each line, and then you're going to add the checks up. So you're going to add. So mine was, the column was 7 and 9, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put those numbers down here and then subtract. So in my case, I have a -2. Since we're going to translate this to a graph, minus numbers are just as valid as positive numbers. So we're going to have positive on one side, positive on one side, or negative on one side, positive above, positive below, and I'll show you what we're going to do that. So what I want you to do right now is we're going to take about a minute or two, and I want you to go through each one of these, and when you're all finished, put a thumbs up or a smiley face or in the chat so Amanda can see it. And when most of you are done, then we'll move on to the assertiveness phase. So do this column first, and then we'll go do the next column. Amanda, are we getting close?
No one's. I think we got a couple of thumbs up now, and someone asked where they could get the behavior profile. You can get the PDF in your Travel Cafe website. So back office, Travel Cafe trainings, quick start, and then sales certification. So now we have 3 thumbs up.
Okay. If you haven't downloaded the manual yet, people, you really need to do that, because this course doesn't make any my talks on every Tuesday amplifies what's in the manual. So you need both. You can't take this class just listening to the videos. You've got to have the manual as well.
Okay, we got another thumbs up.
All right.
I think we can move on. And then just a reminder, if you guys need to review this again, it's always recorded. So you can come back and view this again at your leisure.
Absolutely. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to columns 3 and 4, and you're going to do the exact same thing, except this time it's talking about your assertiveness. So, for example, I'm competitive. I'm cooperative, but I'm way more competitive. I'm a little bit slower paced. I avoid risk like the plague. I'm more laid back. But I do have strong opinions. So you can see mine over there. So do the same thing that you did on the other one, and then add your totals, and then subtract column 4 from 3 to get whatever your number is. Then once you do that, I'll show you what we're going to do with it.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a couple people that are ready to go. They put thumbs up.
Okay. All right. So those of you that haven't finished this, you can come back and review this if you're going to need a little bit more time, because it's really important that you get this right. All right. So what we did was on page 6. And I want you to go over to page 7. So this is the behavior profile. This is me. All right. So you follow the directions on the bottom. Now, this is my personal style chart. If you remember, I was a -2 on the emotions and a -1 on the assertiveness. So the first thing we're going to do, here's the emotional scale. Okay. I was a -2, so I'm going to go find -2, which is right here. And I'm going to draw a line through -2. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the assertiveness. I'm going to find -1, which is right there. And then I'm going to draw a line that way. Where those two lines intersect, that's my home base style. That's what I like. That's how I like to be treated. That's how I like to treat other people. And then we're going to walk through the characteristics of each one of those styles. So you will notice I am amiable. Now, I want you to pay particular attention. Remember, I talked about that we had characteristics from each of the other styles, and you're going to have characteristics from some that are stronger than from the others. For example, you'll see these little arrows on the sides, like this one that goes up and down, sideways, up and down, sideways, and these two that cross. This tells me I have a lot of influence from the driver. All right, even though I'm an amiable, I have influences of the driver, and you see that in these videos because I have to take control. We've got a certain amount of time to get things covered. I'm the guy that's in control and making sure everything happens. And I've got a whole lot of stuff to get out in a little bit of time. So my assertiveness takes over and I migrate over to here for purposes of this video. But normally I like to live in the amiable category. All right. So the farther out you are anywhere on these lines, so if you've got a pretty big minus number on the assertiveness, and that means you're going to have a lot of influences. You're not a very assertive person to begin with, and you're either an emotional one or non-emotional. It's the same one for all of these. All right. So, and the other thing to remember is that even though this is where your comfort zone is, you can migrate depending on what your situation is. You can migrate anywhere along either one of these lines at any time. It all depends on the situation. And we're going to show you how that affects you and how that affects people around you next week when we get into stressful situations. Okay, so here's some of the basic characteristics. I want you to go over to page 10. All right. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. You can read this, but here are the basic characteristics of each one of the styles. Amiables. All right. We're the people pleasers. We are the relationship people. If somebody comes up to you and says, I'm a people person, you're talking to an amiable. Typically, they're well balanced. They don't have strong opinions one way or the other as a rule. And they're pretty even keeled most of the time. They're sympathetic people. They love to hear your story. They're very diplomatic. They don't like making people feel bad. So a lot of times, and we'll get into this in stressful situations, what happens when amiables get under stress. But typically, they're kind of the diplomats. They love to work in groups. They do not like conflict at all. This is the classic case of these people will do just about anything to avoid an argument. And they're slow decision makers. So when it comes to them making a decision on whether or not to buy from you, because they're not very assertive, they're going to be a little bit on the slower side. Okay, so the next one is the analyticals. These are the very serious people. These are the accountants, the lawyers, anybody that deals, these are the facts and figures people, where amiables are the people, analyticals are the facts and data people. They're very purposeful. There's always a reason for everything that they do. They're extremely self-disciplined. They're perfectionists. Their need to be right overrides just about anything else in their personality. And I'll give you an example of my two brothers. My brother Steve is a classic analytical, and we would get in arguments all the time, especially when we were growing up. We'd get into arguments, and it didn't matter what it was about. It was just we liked to do it. It was a lot of fun. But one time I said to him, I said, Steve, if I brought you some information that showed you that my side of the argument was correct, how would you handle that? And I never will forget this response. He says, I just go find more information that proved I was right. That's an analytical. They're neat and tidy. You will never see a messy desk in an office of an analytical, which is also a clue. If you're walking into somebody's home, their place of business, we all know people who are messies, and we all know people who are neaties. Analyticals are the needy. They're the neat freaks. Like I said, they are facts and data people. And again, because they are left of the line, you're going to hear me use these terms a lot. If you look at the graph, they're cut in half. So if I say you are left of the line, that means that you are not you're not assertive. So left of the line is not assertive people. Right of the line means you're more assertive. Above the line means that you are less emotional. So that would be the analyticals and the drivers. And below the line means you are more emotional, which are the amiables and the expressives. So when you hear me say left of the line, right of the line, above or below the line, that's what we're talking about. Because the key to this, well, I'll talk about some of the keys on how you go about doing this toward the end. So the drivers, these are the my way or the highway guys, and we all know them. They're very dynamic. They're charismatic. They're the typical leaders, very assertive. They're the visionaries. They know where they want to go. They might not know how they want to get there, but they know where they want to go. They're very determined. They like options. Especially when you're in a selling situation, when you're talking about a vacation plan or whatever you're doing with a driver, and if you've identified them as being right of the line, you're not really sure if they're driver expressive. They like options. All right. They like to take risks. Where the analyticals and the amiables are risk averse, drivers they like taking risks, and their risks are based on facts and data. All right. Expressives like risk too, but their risk taking is based on their emotions. So you need to make that distinction when you're trying to figure out how somebody approaches things. They are, like I said, they're the control freaks. They need to make sure that they are the ones in charge and it gets done the way they want it done. And again, because they're more assertive, they make decisions very, very quickly. Okay, the expressives, outgoing. These are the guys that buy a $300,000 red Ferrari and take up 3 parking spaces because they want to be recognized. My brother Ron, classic expressive. All right. And you guys have all seen Ron in action. He's very informal, where Steve is a lot more formal, and I'm somewhere in between. So they're very outgoing. They're ambitious. Those of you that know Ron, this is one of the classic behaviors for him. He is a very ambitious guy, but he's also a very generous guy. He knows what he wants to do, and he doesn't always know how he wants to get there, but he knows where he wants to go. All right, charismatic. Again, just like the drivers, expressives. These are the very charismatic people. They draw people toward them. Good arguers. They're very persuasive. And again, they like talking. They like to argue. They like to prove their points to people. Sometimes their points may be off base, and it's easy to dissuade them. But a lot of times they don't care if they're right or wrong. They just want to persuade you to their side. They like to play devil's advocate a lot, and that's wrong. They're not very time disciplined. So when this is one of the things when you're on a sales call and you've identified an expressive, you need to make sure that you keep everything on track, because they will sidetrack you quickly with stories, anecdotes, rabbit trails. They'll take you down a rabbit trail. They'll want to talk about their experiences. So you have to keep them focused and on track. They love recognition. You can drop all the names you know when you're talking to an expressive, because that's what they love. And they love you to use their names. They love the recognition. And finally, again, these guys are really, really fast decision makers. So these are the typical characteristics of what it is that you're looking for. These are the things that you can observe objectively. You can see this, how they talk, how they act. All right. Now, one thing that we really need to pay attention to, and again, this is on the test. This right here, while I am an amiable and I have a lot of driving tendencies, when I'm in a selling situation, because I don't share very much with somebody who actually is a driver, these are called toxic styles. So when you're selling to somebody, who are you most likely to have issues with when you're in a selling situation? So for me, chances are I'm going to have issues with a driver, although because I am a driver myself, I struggle sometimes with expressives because it's hard to keep them on track. But most of the time, if I'm going to struggle, it's going to be with the driver. The drivers are going to struggle with amiables because drivers pretty much don't care about relationships and amiables do. So you kind of get where we're going with this. And the same goes for analyticals and expressives. Facts and data people, analyticals, don't share a lot of traits with emotional, pull things out of the air people. So expressives and analyticals are more than likely going to be toxic, and drivers and amiables are more likely going to be toxic. But again, it all depends on the situation. But for purposes of the test, pay attention to opposites, the opposites, okay? All right, now go to page 11. Page 11 is, these are what you look for. Okay, we're paying attention to what they're saying. How do we pay attention? What do we look for on the nonverbal stuff, on the physical characteristics? What are they giving us with their bodies? Okay, so what to look for in each particular style. The characteristics are down here on the left, and then each one of the styles is across the top. So for example, in the voice has four, just the voice alone has four things to pay attention to. Are they soft or loud? Are they slow or fast? Are they animated or monotone, or animated or not animated? Or do they have inflection, or are they more monotonal? So you can see this. How do they talk? Their diction, okay? Amiables are more formal. Analyticals, very, very formal. Drivers are formal. Expressives, they're not so formal. They use idioms and they use all kinds. Their grammar may not be the best, but you get the idea of what to look for, which helps you identify which style that the people are coming into. Okay, nonverbal. Again, nonverbal is just as important as the verbal. And the very first one, there's two things that you can immediately grab when you meet somebody for the first time. Eye contact, handshake. Those are the two biggies that you pay attention to right off the bat, because that's your very first contact with them. So handshake, firm with an amiable. Analyticals, less firm. They're not very assertive. A driver has a strong handshake, and an expressive has a firm handshake. And it also is, how do they shake your hand? Now, this is hard for you to see, but this is really important that you understand this. The typical business handshake, thumb up. I'll do it this way. Thumb up. Everything's back. I'm looking at everything backwards here. And when you come in, you come web to web. So when you shake hands, you get right into the web and you grip firmly. And the fingers are neutral. They're not up, they're not down. All right. Coming over the top or coming underneath, that gives you a style clue. All right. Less assertive people, amiables and analyticals, when they shake your hand, typically they're going to come underneath. Okay. Expressives and drivers are typically going to go somewhere from here to all the way. Have you ever shaken hands with somebody who comes in right over the top of you like this? Or have you ever shaken hands with somebody who's there right here? Those mean things. All right. The handshake is if somebody comes in underneath, what are they telling you? You're in control. Use me, abuse me. I'm all yours. Do whatever you want with me. The other side is the guys that come in over the top, especially the drivers. These guys, they're saying, I'm in control. I got this. Don't worry about a thing. We're good. I made the mistake as a test one time. I walked into a school and the principal, this is no joke. I just wanted to see what would happen. The principal came out behind his desk and his hand was like this. And I'm not kidding. I actually did this. I grabbed his hand and I immediately turned him under, just like this. It didn't take him half a second to get back like this. And I just started laughing. And he says, "What are you laughing about?" I said, and then I told him what I was doing. And then he was a funny guy, and I knew him from other places. It wasn't I actually knew who he was, and we knew each other. So I told him what I was doing, and he got a good chuckle out of that as well. But he learned a valuable lesson about himself and about other people. Okay, clothing. Relaxed. I'm not going to go through all these. You can read them. Facial expression is another one. Okay. Animation, little animation and analytical, some animation, and expressives are very animated. Smile, eye contact. All right. Gesturing, as a general rule, people who are right of the line, the more assertive people, these people are out when they make their gesturing, they're outside their shoulders. Okay. People who are less assertive, their gesturing is all within their body width. Okay. That's just a general rule. But if you notice that, that's something to pay attention to. Okay. Posturing. Take a look at the posturing. So these are the things that you can take a look at. And these are the things that I want you to pay attention to. Now, here's the key. Don't try to get somebody in a quadrant, okay? What you want to try to do, it's going to be hard to get them pinned down to a specific quadrant. What's really easy to do is to get them in a half. So you eliminate, immediately you can eliminate two of the styles. All right. So you can either get them right of the line as assertive, left of the line as non-assertive, or you can get them above the line as not very emotional, or below the line as more emotional. That's fairly easy to do. And you can probably do it within the first 30 seconds to a minute. And then by paying attention to all the rest of this stuff, you can kind of then nail down, all right, I'm dealing with an analytical, I'm dealing with a driver or whatnot. Okay. If you want to know more information about this, there are two websites on page 10, at the bottom of page 10. What you're looking at here, this was the original personality style that was developed in the 70s. And I'm sure you've all taken different types of personality styles, the Myers-Briggs and the colors and all that other stuff. I like this one because the terms that it uses are terms that I understand. It's easy to understand: amiable, driver, expressive, analytical. The ones that I read, they got this phlegmatic, concrete, sequential, all this, and I have no clue what any of that stuff means. This is simple. It's easy for my 77-year-old brain to understand. And so that's what we do. If you want to dig into this on your own, go to these two websites, because that's what we're talking about today is based on these two websites. And they go into way, way more detail if you really want to explore this. Okay, that's it. Here's your homework. What I want you to do is I want you to print out a bunch of the blank style forms. And I want you to do one on your kids, at least one of your kids. Do one on your spouse, do one on your boss, do one on a friend, and see how close you get and share it with them. It's a lot of fun. And as I said before, this is a life skill. It's not just a selling skill. If you've got somebody you struggle with in your life, apply these principles to that and see if are you dealing with a toxic style, and then how can you adjust to get on the same page, which is what we're going to talk about next week. It's called versatility. So we're going to talk about next week, okay, now that we've identified somebody's style, how do we get on the same page with them? And that's next week. All right, so Amanda, we're a little over. Do we have any questions today?
Doesn't look like we have any questions. Just we had some nice comments, and then if you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to Mike at mike@archertravel.com or give him a call at 206-979-4249, and he can help you out.
That's it. Okay, guys, if you want to get a jump on everything, go into the manual and start studying up for next week. And we'll see you then. It's going to be fun. See ya.